come in 1 second. Hello, everyone. Well, we are back with our focus on mid-age women, meaning 40 plus, or mid-40s, I would say that right there. And we have today Dr. Rachel with me. She's a naturopathic doctor focusing on women's health, but the topic is very sensitive and interesting. Vaginal dryness, we really don't talk about it. So that's why I wanted to bring Dr. Rachel to talk about, vaginal dryness as a result of perimenopause. What happens, when does it start happening? How does it impact the women? And then the second question would be, what can women do about it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. I actually practice out of Atlanta. We have a clinic here specializing in women's health. We also do a lot of telemedicine. And vaginal dryness, it's not necessarily the most fun topic, but it's an important one. And it certainly can affect perimenopausal or menopausal women and also younger. So this is a health topic that I think is important to all women. And the biggest factor when we talk about vaginal dryness, before we can put anything into the mix to help support it, we have to get to the root cause. So what is causing one particular woman's vaginal dryness? Because her cause may be totally different than the next 5 women. There are a whole host of causes to vaginal dryness. Dehydration is a big one. Chronic dehydration. Most of the time, we just don't drink enough water daily, and our tissues have to be able to have that moisture composition to be able to be strong and sturdy. And one of the big things that I see in my own practice, sparkling water, which is largely targeted to women. It's glamorous. If you drink sparkling water, you're glamorous. It doesn't hydrate the body. I always say a fish can't live in a tank of sparkling water, and neither can your cells. So making sure, number one, the basic pillar of health, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Other factors can absolutely be things like medication, even oral contraceptives, even if you're not on birth control anymore, if you were on them years previously, that can be a factor in vaginal dryness. Certainly when we're talking about perimenopause and menopause, changes in hormones are a big factor with vaginal dryness, vaginal atrophy, vaginal inflammation, and certainly a reduction in estrogen, reduction in testosterone. So we don't talk a lot, or we're starting to talk more, but testosterone is very important for women's health. And there are a number of integrative doctors that are bringing it more main stage for women. Doesn't mean you're going to be big, beefy, and hairy and all of that, but you need testosterone. It's the stamina, kind of the libido, the assertiveness that also declines when our testosterone levels decline. Progesterone is also a key player, DHEA. Those are probably the 4 big hormones that I really value hormone testing in my own practice, because we're able to take an inventory. For example, your estrogen level as a XYZ aged woman may be very different than someone else's. We don't want to go in, even with bioidenticals, which I love, we use them often in our clinic. We don't want to put a woman on a bioidentical estrogen just because she's in menopause if her estrogen looks good, right? So really getting in and doing the testing is going to be important. Speaking of testing, hormones aside, there could be vaginal infection, things like candida, things like bacterial vaginosis, other types of microbes. And there's a lot that we can figure out naturopathically or through a comprehensive intake. How's her gut doing? Because the upper end of the waterfall, the microbes in her gut, are going to affect downstream vaginal microbes, right? So if that is off balanced, then that will lend towards inflammation, tissue damage, tissue dryness. So it could absolutely be a microbial issue. And you can see if it's a microbial overgrowth piece, we've got to support that. We can't go after it with hormones because hormones may be okay. So getting to that root cause, poor diet and low protein. Women are oftentimes very low in protein, especially if they're vegan, vegetarian, or just not simply eating enough protein in general. Most women need about 60 to 70 grams of protein daily. And when we think about amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, which are the building blocks of things like our tissues, it can absolutely indirectly affect something like vaginal tissue. So that's a huge factor. Going further on the nutrition piece, poor diet, low good fats in the diet. Fats are talked about a lot now because they are so important. Things like avocado and olive oil and nuts and seeds, those are going to be really, really great to support overall body tissue, but also more specifically vaginal tissue. So those would be the main causes that I see contributing to vaginal dryness.
No, I think this is great. So this is not a treatment session or a consultation. Of course, I just want to put a big disclaimer here. But we are trying to advocate naturopathy and natural holistic therapies here at Nourish Talk. And we have a naturopathic doctor here. What kind of different therapies, whether this is, you talked about diet, protein, if I go on the web, a lot of people are selling vaginal creams and oils and vitamin E's and all that kind of stuff. So I just want our viewers to get on a very high, like a 10,000 feet above, as to what is it that they should do to help with the vaginal dryness. And you talked about estrogen going down, which happens to all the women our age, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and definitely those basic pillars of daily healthy living are going to be our best options, right? So things like proper sleep, which is when your body heals and repairs tissues, hydration, foods, a good, colorful, protein-rich diet. When we get more specific, making sure that female hygiene products, which can be very toxic, even if you're not menstruating anymore, if you're using panty liners, other soaps, fragrances on your body, those can be really, really harmful and caustic, especially to the vaginal tissue. So being very careful there. And that carries over into lubrications, creams, topicals, gels, etc. Read the label. So there are so many out there available. I can't say this is the best or these are, the ones you want to go for. Just make sure to read labels. And if there are ingredients on the label that you can't read or pronounce, it means it's probably a chemical, and we don't want that going into the body. So staying away from, again, fragrances, toxins like sodium laurate, parabens, phthalates, that's going to be very important to vaginal tissue. And then more specifically, there are a whole host of botanicals that can be very wonderful. Things like vitamin E and sodium hyaluronate can make great topicals, even suppositories. There's a whole host of natural tools in the naturopathic and integrative toolbox to help with this. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add? Like any herbs or something, like natural supplements that women should focus on? Or this is a quick 10-minute session that we bring before I wrap up.
Yeah. So again, it really depends on the woman. But, for example, with low testosterone, there are some really beautiful botanicals that help boost testosterone. Things like tribulus, ashwagandha, Asian ginseng. Exercise is a key factor in boosting testosterone naturally. When it comes to estrogen, things like red clover, dong quai, vitex, black cohosh, those can all be beautiful botanicals for boosting estrogen. So yeah, botanicals, love using botanicals in practice.
All right. Okay. Well, this is, like I said earlier, this is not a consultation, but the whole idea is that integrative therapies, holistic integrative therapies, whether you talk about the exercise, you talk about the diet, we talked about the supplements, when they are all put together, and of course, with testing with someone like yourself, the cumulative effect can help women out there with vaginal dryness. And do you want to the last thing I want to talk about is efficacy of natural therapies, right? So do you want to, because a lot of women, we are used to, at least in the US, popping a pill and everything is going to get fixed. But in naturopathy and natural therapies, we know that there's a cumulative effect of what you're saying. So do you want to talk about the efficacy with your clients of using natural therapies for issues like vaginal dryness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, in being in practice over a decade now, I've seen even more how effective natural remedies are. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't believe in it. So using nature's toolbox is very effective, can be very safe, because we also don't typically get the side effects that come along with various medications. I'm not anti-medication. As a naturopathic physician, I do think there is a place for them when they're used judiciously, responsibly. They can provide respite and be life-saving. But you're right, we are a pill-happy society in a sense, because we want something fixed and we want it fixed quickly. But using natural medicine and putting, for example, those pillars of health into place, that's the long-term fix. That's the correct kind of realignment, rebalancing, versus just a Band-Aid, which is sometimes what a pill will offer. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That's what we are advocating, efficacy of holistic therapies. Yes, please go ahead. You wanted to say something?
No, just thank you so much for having me. I think the more that we can spread the word that there are options in healthcare, and that's the biggest thing. You have sovereignty over your own body. You've got options. If you prefer the pill route, support you fully. If you want to dive in a different way, there are options available. And that's the most exciting thing about being empowered about your own health.
Absolutely, and that's what we are advocating: science-backed, research-backed, holistic therapies that women should at least sort out rather than taking a pill immediately. But it's just a little bit of more hard work. It takes a little time, but it's definitely worth it, considering your long-term effects, right? You're really helping yourself, not subjecting yourself with long-term side effects that could have if you take the pill versus embracing holistic therapies. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.